listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome to this week's LA Talk Radio. I can't wait for this topic today because it's a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun because we're talking about something really important. Now, we talk all the time. I mean, this is the show that's dedicated to help you create a life that you want. And we talked last week about, your ability and your calling and your commitment. And I asked you, what's it worth to you? And that's the first step. Like, you got to decide. I got to decide. I'm creating this ultimate life. It's not going to be a gift to me. Well, there's gifts. There's divine gifts. So partly it's a gift no matter what we do. But the keys to the gift are busting your butt. They're getting a clear focus. They're choosing a purpose that's uplifting and full of love. And so a lot of people will bust their butt, but they're focused around just cash. How much money can I have? Greed. What's in it for me? That isn't fulfilling. So there's certain goals that are fulfilling and certain goals that aren't. Goals that are fulfilling always have to do with love and service. Goals that are fulfilling always have to do with our gifts and talents. The stuff that we have inside and the skills that we've learned. So last week, and if you didn't listen to last week, the name of last week's is What's It Worth to You? Because even though I guarantee you can create your ultimate life, I guarantee you can create a life you love, like every minute of it, every day. Excuse me. You don't get up and, oh, I hate my life. You never do that. You get up and you're excited about it. And the reason I know that is because I live that way. Every day is beautiful. Sure, I have physical pains and getting a little older and I got this and that and things don't go the way I want. That's all part of life. But I love every one of them. I was talking to a client this morning and we were just talking about different challenges that they were having in their life and process. And what I noticed and felt impressed to ask the client was, what if you said, no matter what happened, and I listed some of the things that we've been discussing, what if you said, no matter what happened, the question you ask is, what is the gift here? What is the gift here? And that sparked a good conversation to have about how we look at life challenges. Now, that's worth a whole episode by itself here, so we're not going to talk about that. And in fact, I already have in a couple of different ways, and you'll need to go back in the catalog to find some of that stuff. After you realize and answer the question, what's it worth to you? And you furiously, fiercely, and honestly answer whatever it takes, right? Because if you say, I want X amount of money, X amount of happy, X amount of great relationships. I want to live in a certain place, have a certain thing. I want to add good to the world. Me, I'm reaching 300 million people. So here's the sequence. Okay. I commit to, I am reach 300 million people with a message of love, of divinity, meaning you are divine, capability and possibility to help you find your gifts and elevate the world and make purpose, prosperity, and joy out of your daily life instead of mediocrity and same and fighting for attention and all the way the world lives now. So that's the message I have. Love to you and your capability. Divinity, capability, possibility. That's the way I describe it to create purpose, prosperity, and joy. So I say that. That's what I want. And then the question from last week would be to Kellan, okay, dude, what's it worth to you? Ooh. What's it worth to you? Well, it's worth everything. It's worth getting up every single day, doing my morning daily creation process, going into that goal with everything I've got, whether I'm teaching, coaching, speaking to you, writing books, attending conferences, whatever I'm doing all in, all the time, 100%. And so that's what it's worth to me. And when you have that kind of burning, it's worth whatever it takes. The next question I get from people, and sometimes these are out of order, right? They'll ask the other one first. But the question is, I don't know what my purpose is. How do I find it? How do I find my awesome, loving life purpose, Kellan. And they repeat back to me all the words, blah, blah, blah. One that motivates me, drives me, makes me happy, adds good to the world, makes money, etc., big cash and everything. How do I find that? That's what we're going to talk about today. You have power and purpose. I don't know if you're using it. Well, you are using it or you wouldn't be breathing. So your lungs work, your heart works, you're breathing. So you're using some of the gifts you have. But most of us live half-baked. We live like a flag that's not even at half-mast. We're barely off the ground. We're barely tapping into our capability. Remember, divinity, capability, possibility. Now, your divinity is unquestioned. You're created by God. You can't do anything about that. And you have capability that comes from divine DNA. I want you to look at that picture behind me. I call that the triple helix. And we're going to talk about that because that right there is the key. That is the key to finding your purpose. That is the key to finding that thing where you can make the biggest difference, the most money, and have the most fun. Imagine that. Make the biggest impact, make the most cash. Ooh, yeah. And have the biggest reach and have the most fun the time of your life. Look at that picture. That's it. That triple helix. So we're going to talk about that, about how to do it. Okay. And most of us, most of the time, are barely tapping into that capability. Divinity is established. We can't change it. Capability is what do we have the capability of doing? Infinite. You have divine DNA. And the third letter is, or the third word is possibility. Divinity, capability, possibility. Your capability is a function of your divinity. You have divine DNA. You have divine gifts and talents. You have them. I don't know what you're doing with them, but you have them. And the third word is possibility. In other words, what is it possible for you or me or anyone to do with your capability? So that's what we're going to talk about today. The possibility is infinite. That's the easy answer. But I like to do the how of things because there's so many people that talk about high-level language and they don't really give you the gritty and the nitty-gritty, the how, the rubber meets the road. I got a friend that says the how of the how, the next step right now, the motion, the movement here. So we're going to do that today, the how of the how, because I never shy away from that because we got to have it. And there's so many books and programs and people that, grind harder, take massive action and, develop your willpower. That's a bunch of crap. I mean, it's all true, but it doesn't really help very much because you're not stupid and you're not lazy, most of you. And you just get discouraged and frustrated. So let's get into the how. Here's where this starts. Right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. You have had the vague ache of purpose. That ache in your heart that says, I love to help people. I love to do good. I use the phrase, add good to the world. And you've heard me say that a million times. We know we are here for something. You feel it. That ache, that nagging sense that there's something more. And I don't just mean buying another, Hugo Boss suit or Louis Vuitton bag or cool cruise or whatever. Those things are fun, but not fulfilling. And if they are fulfilling, it's not because of the thing, it's because of the meaning of the thing, the internal stuff, the gut level, spiritual, woo-woo, weird, hard to talk about stuff. That's where meaning and purpose and feel good and joy, that's where that lives. It doesn't live in a car. It doesn't live in clothing. It doesn't live in a big house. It lives in your soul. And that's why people say, and I do too, it's an inside job. It's working inside out. So you know that, and you felt the nagging feeling that you're here for more, that you're supposed to do something. And then most default to, I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. Right? Now, here's some things I can tell you about purpose. It does not come in an Amazon box. It does not come in any kind of delivery service, and you certainly don't go on a safari and dig it up in the yard or the jungle or the desert. You don't. Now, you have heard of, and I have a client actually who takes people on dangerous and scary mountain climbing expeditions. And she's an awesome expert at technical climbing and has climbed some staggering peaks. And even that by itself doesn't create purpose. It creates an atmosphere or an environment where you might choose a purpose. You might do the personal, guess what, inside work to choose your purpose. Now, sometimes people say, I didn't find my purpose, it found me. That's only partly true. What that means is I was in an experience, maybe I went there on purpose, maybe accidentally, but I had an experience that was so stark and impactful that it woke me up in ways I'd never been aware or present before. And so the circumstance may be the catalyst for the inner work. That's why I write all the books that I do. Those books and the programs I run and the coaching that I do are a catalyst. I use the word alchemist. I'm the ultimate alchemist to help you discover your own tools and power to create anything you want and have joy running out your ears while you do it. Now, if you don't believe me, you can argue or you can talk to me. On the bottom of the screen right here, there's on this side, KellanFluckigerMedia.com. Go there. There's a contact form. Let's talk. If you want to argue with me, that's fine. But you have a purpose, you have a meaning, and you can create your ultimate life. And you felt that vague yearning of purpose, and maybe you've gone to cruises or mountaintops or, with gurus or whatever to create an environment where you hoped that you would get some kind of awakening that it would allow you to choose it. But even if you have, many people go and they don't. They go to a big week-long event and people chant and jump up and down and there's music, or you sit for a week, silent meditation retreat for 10 days. I've been on a silent meditation retreat. Those are fun things to do, and they don't do anything unless you at the same time take advantage of the container and do the work inside, the soul searching, the honesty, the telling the truth, the confronting the demons, the forgiveness of self and others. Because if you or I come out of one of those containers with the same bitterness, anger, frustration, questioning, thinking it's not fair, lack of forgiveness of self or others, if we bring those same emotions out, then nothing changes, and it quote, didn't work. But that's on us, because the container can work. And no matter where it is, whether it's in your living room or your basement or on a mountaintop, the only way that those places work is if we're willing to go inside and do the work. And that's what we are going to talk about today. What is that? The work. What is that? Well, it's founded on some things. First of all, you have to be willing to tell the truth. Tell the truth if you're still holding resentment towards someone. Tell the truth if you haven't forgiven yourself or someone else. Tell the truth if you're still holding feelings of not good enough. Right? If that's prevalent in your feeling or dialogue, your inner dialogue, I suck, I'll never do this. If any of those kinds of things are there, you've already identified your barriers, because those are infinitely thick steel barriers, and they can only be dissolved by changing your belief. Your belief is infinitely powerful for creation or destruction. And the thing that's cool is you get to change your beliefs. Now, I could and have and will again do another episode on how to change a belief. There is a 4-step process in the book of context. This book was a companion to the things I received when I died in 2018 and had 3 conversations with God at the door between life and eternity. So what's in here was given to me in that sacred place. And so I know it works. It works for me and it works for clients that I use. So and then there are lots of others. I'm not saying it's the only way to, adjust your belief. Mind shifting. I saw an ad. Somebody's invented a new name for this. Mind shifting. Okay. But it's all about identifying and then discarding beliefs that are getting in your way. Today's purpose, we're going to talk specifically about one piece of this. And it takes a while. I can't cover all of them because then I would be just gliding over the surface like nearly everyone does. Today, we're going to talk about your triple helix. We're going to talk about finding your life purpose. Wow. And finding it is maybe not even the right word, because you choose it. You choose it. But you choose it by digging around in your life and asking some questions. And then you make a choice. All right, and it's an informed choice. Your purpose isn't the win, the prize, the gold at the end of your run or your swim or your bike ride. It's the power that makes you run. Get it? It's not the prize. You don't go do all this stuff and then your purpose is out there. Purpose is what gets you up every day. And that's why I live the ultimate life, because I have a purpose riveted to my head, in my heart, my vision, on my walls, in my PTAC, everything. And if you don't know what that is, PTAC, here's another book, Living with Purpose and Power. Go read it, or not. But if this work calls to you, then here are some of the tools to get it done. All right. So the triple helix is a process, and there's the picture that I have to help you find your purpose. And even when you find it, you still got to choose it. You got to dedicate yourself to it, because you don't just find it and suddenly all barriers and difficulties disappear and you're focused and nothing matters anymore. That doesn't work that way. Purpose starts with that vague nagging, and then I'm going to give you a path that I use and have used with myself and others to choose a purpose that resonates with your heart, lights you on fire, gets you up every day, and makes you feel great, and lets you have purpose, prosperity, which is the cash you need to live and to increase your purpose. See, cash is only important. It's just one thing. Yeah, it lets you enjoy a lot of stuff, but really what it's good for is it lets you help more people. Like my goal to reach 300 million costs money. I've got to pay to go places and do things. And I do. Why? Because I want to reach these 300 million. That's my commitment. I'm going to do it no matter what, to get on different shows and to do different things. And I'm not doing it because nothing for me, except this is my purpose that I chose. All right, here's how you choose. There are 3 strands in your DNA. There are 3 specific strands in your triple helix. One way to think of it is the triple helix. So there's a picture behind me. And you can also think of a big rope. You know, those great big ropes they tie those big boats with, and they're about, this big around, and they have 3 strands, a blue strand and a yellow and white, and they're woven together, and they're super, incredibly strong. Okay. The reason I like that metaphor is because they're strong. They hold these enormous boats in place. All right. The 3 strands are your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. And the word experience is up here twice because your skills also give you some experience, but your life experience is something different. Now let's define these. If you mine these 3 areas, they form an unbreakable rope, an invincible power, a driving purpose that will get you out of bed every day, light your life, help you overcome every setback, and keep you moving. It will allow you, and here's the bold claim, okay? If you find and choose and own a purpose, you will make a bigger impact, meaning help more people. Ooh, that's that feeling. I want to help people. Love doing that. You'll make more money and have more fun than anything else you could do with your life. Find the purpose, choose it, declare it, own it, weave it into your DNA. You'll be able to make a bigger difference, help more people, make more money to use as resources to grow your purpose and your reach. and have more fun than anything you could do with your life. Now, that's a bold claim, and it's true. And you can argue with me, but you won't know unless you try. So this is not an invitation to argue. It's an invitation to try. And again, if you want help, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com, and there's a contact form, and let's talk. Because this is what I've dedicated my life to. Helping people understand and find and then live that purpose. I do. And my purpose isn't just to help you find purpose, but my purpose is to help people understand and overcome all the obstacles and stories and negative stuff that we talked about last week, the what's it worth to you stuff. Because I've learned how to do that. Like nobody I know. I don't call myself, people call me, and I love it, the ultimate alchemist, because there's a mixture of science and magic. But I am that. And I dedicate every day hours to improving my skill, my understanding, my power to do that. Why? Because I want to do a better job helping people thrive, explode, and create purpose, prosperity, and joy. All right. So what are skills? Well, skills to start with, it's pretty obvious. Maybe you went to college and you learned to be an architect or an engineer or an interior designer. Maybe you went to trade school and learned to build things, learn to be a mechanic. Or learn to trade. I've got a son who's an amazing carpenter, and he builds beautiful, custom, awesome furniture that fits like impossibly good, right? Fits impossibly good. So that's a skill. Now you have skills. Skills are the things that you've been selling in the marketplace. Maybe you get along with people really good, so you're great at customer management. Maybe you're really good at explaining things, so you're good at, helping people apply stuff. You're in customer service, or maybe you sell really well because you aren't squirmy about it and you're really interested in people. Maybe you love listening to people and helping them with the problems and difficulties, getting them to see stuff differently. And so you're a therapist. Maybe you love helping people with their health challenges. So you've turned into a doctor of one or another specialty. I've got a brother who's a doctor. I've got another brother who's an attorney. They all learned separate skills, and so have you. So skills are one piece of this puzzle. Now, here's the limitation. Most people learn a skill and then they go to sell it in the market, and then that's what they do. They then identify themselves. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an accountant, I'm an engineer, and then they become that skill in their mind. They identify with that skill, right? And that's very limiting because that's only one piece of you. And what ends up happening is people are unhappy with their job. I mean, you've seen the surveys. Maybe you've been in one of them. Anywhere between 80 and 95%, and that depends on the survey and how, the questions are worded and stuff. But some huge percentage of people aren't satisfied in their job. And the reasons they give is they don't really know what the company's about. They don't know what impact their work has on the mission of the company. They're not being fully used. They don't feel like they make a difference. Right? It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't make a difference. So that sense of emptiness comes from not being used well, not being, nobody asks me how to do things. Nobody listens to my suggestions. My boss sucks. All these things are part of the reasons people say, well, I don't like my job. It's not fulfilling. I don't feel like it means anything. And why people are constantly on the lookout for either other jobs or I'm just going to keep this job. And then they go into the working for the weekend. So I work, I do the stuff I got to do. I know how to do it. I've got good skills at it, but it's not fun or fulfilling. Then I can work for the weekend. Yeah. Then I can go do hobbies or, play with kids or go party or do whatever it is you do, And so then you have this misery of a large part of your week. And that's why people say, oh, can we have 4-day work weeks, 6-hour days? What can we do to minimize the pain? Well, what if you maximize the joy? I don't even count the hours I work because I don't care because I don't work. I have a purpose and I love it and I'm married to it. Well, I'm married to joy, but she's part of my purpose. And so I live every day with this absolute, overwhelming, leak out of my eyeballs joy that's not fake in any way. And that's true even when stuff goes poorly, when stuff doesn't work like I want, when somebody gets sick or something happens. You know the drill, on and on and on and on. We all have them. But there's still absolute joy and dedication to purpose. It's not even dedication. It's I'm called by this purpose. So your skills are one piece of this. The second piece is gifts. Now, you might think skills and gifts are the same, and they can cross over, but they're not. Gifts are the things that you naturally do well. So, for example, some people are talented in obvious ways. They have a musical ear, a musical facility. They learn one or more instruments, or they write beautiful music, or they sing well more naturally than others. Some people might learn to sing, but they got to do a lot more work. Maybe you listen really well, like you just have a heart to be really empathetic and hear people. Maybe you're one of those people, and I knew one, this woman that I knew, she always seemed to know what to say. And so we'd be in some situation, something would happen, and she just always knew what to say. And I would hear her say and think, wow, what a hit. What the right thing to say, right? And so there are hundreds, maybe thousands of different gifts, things you didn't go cultivate, but you have, things that you do easily with facility and stuff you even enjoy doing, probably because it's easy and you do it well. And people come to you for that because you're known for that. Maybe you have a lot of bubbly energy. I had a guy tell me once, he was a client, but before he was a client, he said, I just need your energy. Some of that energy, can I please? And so I realized that I had a gift for energizing people, for getting them excited and, lifting and moving, right? Okay. So your gifts are your second strand. The third strand is your life experience, and that's really the basket in which all of this stuff unfolds. So you have this picture behind you. It's your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. Now, life experience is actually the most important of the three. And the reason is because it has the biggest ability to shape us, sometimes against our will. And what I mean by that is not always, but often, the most powerful life experiences are the hard ones, the ones that beat us to pieces, the ones where we might have screamed at the sky, why me, this isn't fair, the betrayals, the illness, the robbery, the death of a loved one, the betrayal of a spouse, one of your children dying or getting in trouble or having an addiction issue, or you having that, or, bankruptcy or a failed business, or, those life experiences. And as I list a few, I want you to think about your life experiences. Now, they can be great ones, but most of the ones that stick hardest and make the biggest impact are the sad, hard, unfair, unjust, brutal things. Now, that is the third thing of the third strand in the DNA. So you've got a set of skills, you've got a set of gifts, and you've got life experiences. Now, all of those develop over time. You may still be developing skills, and you certainly might still be discovering gifts, and unless you're dead, you're still having life experiences. So those are the three things. If you're looking for life purpose, a driving, fiery purpose that gets you up every day, lights you up, and lets you make the biggest impact, the most money, and have the most fun. Now, we're going to take these each apart, and we're going to talk about the strand of your skills first. Okay? Get a piece of paper and write down the skills, everything you've been paid to do. I worked in a body shop as a grunt work, sanding cars, getting them ready to paint. I worked for a painter who did house painting, and most fun thing I remember there was we painted a miniature golf course that had 3 18-hole golf courses. So, you can imagine the number of pagodas and ladders and benches and things we had to paint. I fell off a ladder there one day. Anyway, life experience. So all of those things that you've been paid for, maybe you went to school, college, got a degree. Maybe you didn't. But the things that you've been paid to do are your skills. And you may have other skills, but that's an easy way to start thinking about it. What have I been paid to do? What have you been trained or paid to do? Now, please don't confuse the fact that you're really good at one of those with your life purpose. The fact that you're an outrageous engineer isn't a life purpose. That is a skill that's highly developed. It may relate to your life purpose, but don't get those confused, because people that do, they identify with a skill. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an architect, I'm an engineer, I'm a plumber, I'm a painter, whatever. They're the ones who report they're not happy with their job because they're not complete. So make a list of all your skills. Okay. The next thing is your natural gifts. What's easy for you to do that's hard for others? Some are obvious, like, maybe you paint well, maybe you draw well, maybe you play the piano, or you have another musical instrument, maybe you sing, maybe you're athletically inclined, your muscles are built so that you have really great speed or endurance, and short fiber, long fiber, whatever that is in muscles. You have those gifts. Now, here's the important thing. Because it's easy for us, we assume it's not important. That is so not true. Not true, not true, not true. And in fact, this exercise where you, on a separate column, list all the gifts you have, things maybe you don't know. And if you haven't ever done this before, you might need to talk to somebody. Ask a friend or a spouse or someone you trust. What do you think my natural gifts are? Do I have any? Well, if you had to say, what do you think they are? And just write them down and don't argue. Don't argue, because the way others see you and the way you see you are different. So let it be different. Now, in the skills part we just did, you should have at least 10. And in the gifts part, you should have at least 10. So don't, get wrapped around the axle that I can't think of any, or I can only think of one. Nonsense. Stay with it until you've got at least 10. Okay? And other questions that might help you is, what do people come to you for? Right? Those are divine fingerprints. Those are the gifts you were given to find and enjoy your life purpose. If you want to know more about that, I wrote a book, a different book, not the book of context. I wrote a book called Meeting God at the Door. When I died in 2018, I had 3 conversations with God at the door between life and eternity, and one of those was about this life purpose stuff. So you might want to read that book. It's called Meeting God at the Door. And I titled it that because the conversations took place at a doorway. So I don't have time to tell that story here, but there's some really good stuff in there for that. So now you have a list of at least 10 skills and at least 10 gifts. And don't do this be bashful stuff. And this is unemotional. Just write it down. Okay? You might bury your gift because you don't think it's important. Right? If you find yourself brushing it off, well, yeah, that was easy, no big deal. Stop doing that. Just say thank you and then listen. Someone is expressing gratitude for something you've done, probably using one of your gifts that was easy for you. And so you say, well, that's nothing. Well, it may have been, but it was important to them. So don't slap somebody upside the head by throwing away their acknowledgement and gratitude. Don't do that. Why would you do that? Do you like it when someone does that to you? You're trying to be sincerely grateful. Wham, they slap your face. No. All right. So now that you have that 10, those 2 lists of 10, we're going to move on to the third one. Your life experience. Now, this is the hardest one to do. It's the most fruitful, the most powerful, and the most important. It's literally the basket that all this unfolded in. Now, one way to look at it, if you're mining your life experience, is just take a sheet of paper and make a list of big life experiences. Parents got divorced. You broke your leg in 3rd grade. You got sick and almost died. You won a contest in high school for writing an essay, or whatever. Just experiences that you think are pivotal, big for you. You remember them easily and well. So make a list of at least 10 of those, maybe 20. And if you think very hard, you'll find it easy to make a longer and longer list. And I think you'll find, like I do, that the hard ones are the bad ones are the ones that are easiest to remember. But anyway, make that list. And then the next column is just a question. When you look at the thing that happened, how did you feel at that time? Were you angry? Were you frustrated? Were you blaming someone else? Were you blaming God or your parents? Did it, prevent you from doing something you wanted? Like, what was the reaction right then? And now that you've had a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, 20, 30 years later, and you look at that same event, the third column is, what do you think about that now? And this is where life events, sometimes they ruin us. Like we get bitter, angry, we want revenge or whatever. And then later, with the benefit of a year or two or 10 or a decade, we realize, oh, that was a great thing. How many times have you heard someone say it was a horrible thing in the world? Later, I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Raise your hand. Have you said that? Yeah, me too. So that's the third column is, what do you think about that now? Obviously, not always, but almost always, how you felt at the moment and how you feel now are going to be way different with the benefit of time. And it's not that time heals all wounds, because that's not true. Time gives you perspective, maturity, and understanding, and allows you to realize the truth of that life happens for us, for our growth and opportunity and development. It doesn't happen to us. I know you've heard that before, but it's true. And looking at the difference between columns 2 and 3 about those 10 or 20 events you've got to start with will show you that. All right. Now, I have had miracle transformations. They took a lot of work, but, I've had pivotal moments that shock people. And again, because we're talking about triple helix, this is not the time. But if you want to read about the things that have happened to me and what I've chosen to do with them, there's another book called Tightrope of Depression. Tightrope of Depression, because I struggled for decades with depression and it ruined my life, and I attempted suicide a couple times. So my journey from darkness, despair, and death to light, love, and life. That's where I've chronicled many of these events that were transformational for me. Now you have 3 piles. You have a pile of skills, you have a pile of gifts, and you have a pile of life experiences, but you've looked at the life experiences carefully. What happened? How did I feel then? How do I feel now? And then examine that difference. In other words, what you're saying is, how have I grown? How have I changed? How have I matured and gotten wiser? Because it is in that difference between column 2 and 3 that this yearning to serve comes from. I want to help people. I know it. I feel it. I know I can. You know why? It's the difference, the change that you've experienced. And that's reflected by the difference between column 2, how I felt about this event then, and how I feel now. Okay, that is infinitely powerful. And those, the difference between column 2 and 3, the description of the event then and now, that's gold. It's platinum. It's worth billions to you. And you know what? Most people don't mind that. I'm glad that's over. Yeah, no, I'm not mad about it anymore. Yeah, it's probably a good thing. And that's as far as it goes in their minds. And maybe you've done that instead of looking at it and saying, what have I learned? What do I realize now that I didn't then, that would make me act, think, feel completely different if something else happens today? Because that growth and development, that is the substance of what we have to offer people. So if you feel like I could sure help people that have gone through divorce, people that have gone through addictions, people that are in financial trouble, people that have money stories, that are scared of money, people that are afraid and doubt their own worth, people that hate public speaking, people that live with anger all the time. I've got a client who wrote a book on how to eliminate anger. And that's because he looked at these events and he said, look what I learned. And he's sharing that, all of that yearning to serve and our ability to do so. Hear that. Comes less from our skills, more from our gifts, and most of all, from our life experience. And the difference that we see between the event, how I felt about it then, and how I feel about it now, which is the growth and maturity. Now, in that process, sometimes we take advantage of feeling different, and so we'll go get help with forgiveness. What I do after I've learned these things is I write another book. So I wrote a book about forgiveness. I wrote a book about walking without fear, about how to eliminate fear from your life. Yeah, it's possible. Live without fear. The book is titled Walking Without Fear. And when you read it, you'll understand, because it had to do with me being paralyzed at one time. I wrote the book of Context, which is about changing your beliefs. I wrote the Results Equation, which is about learning to accomplish any goal systematically and so forth. So when I have learned a thing and implemented it in my life for growth and power, then I've written a book. All right, now we're going to get to the crux. Your scars are sacred. They're not cracks that you need to hide. They're cracks where the light comes in, the love comes in, the forgiveness comes in. And the cracks are the places where your light shines out and blesses others. So you have these three lists. And this takes some work. So I'm telling you this, and you're thinking, well, I don't have time to do that. Let's think about it for a minute. No. Purpose is present. It's now. All right, so now let's think about this. Now that you have these three lists, we're going to combine them. Your yearning to serve and bless comes from your overcoming, your resilience, the difference between column 2 and 3, what you've learned, what you've chosen to change, who you've chosen to forgive yourself and others, how you've chosen to overcome anger, bitterness, revenge, all of those things. That is the engine. Because without that change, the drive that is really life purpose isn't there. You may be really good at a thing, but the drive that makes you get up and move every morning and make sacrifices and crawl over broken glass and get stuff done to help people, that's not there. Anywhere else except that difference, as you have grown, matured, created your own resilience, learned to forgive, learned to love yourself, learn to accept life on its own terms, learn not to rail at God or the sky or the government or anything else, but just create with what you have. That's where your power comes from. The drive to serve and bless. Like, we're built to love and serve each other. All right. So here's some pointers to remember. Life purpose isn't in the past. We've looked at events in the past, skills in the past, and gifts in the past, but we're also looking at them in the present. When you combine these three in the triple helix, and that's what the triple helix is demonstrating, it is a mixture of these things. Your purpose is present before your eyes. It gets you up every day. It winds you up. You feel more satisfied and fulfilled serving, creating value in cash, selling products and services that are grounded in your absolute truth. When you do that, an interesting thing to note is sales, when you're selling, I said you can make lots of money. A lot of people get squirmy about that and they go, yeah, but I don't like to sell. Nonsense. Your experience, your skills, they are valuable, extremely valuable. And you're not serving people if you don't sell them. If you give them away, you know yourself, people don't value stuff given away. Yeah, I'll get to it later. It's free, whatever. If they pay $10,000 for something, well, then they take care of it. And they use it and they look at it and then, they make it work. So the idea that you should give all this value away is nonsense. It's not true. You're not serving you and you're not serving those you want to serve because they don't treat it like value. And when you give everything away, you are limited as to what you can do. If I coached people the way I coach for free, I wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't be able to write books and do a lot of other stuff. So then you'd have to have another gig that you did to put a roof over your head. And that's the one that you'd hate. So instead, make the gig one you love. that's born out of your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. So here's what you do. You remember, if you're breathing, your mission's not complete, because when it's done, you're gone. Purpose is not in the past. It is here and now, and reconnecting with it. Having a process of reconnecting with your purpose every single day is vital. And I teach that in this book, Living with Purpose and Power. Not just teach it, but teach how. How. All my books are about the how. God didn't create you or me to sell widgets and die. Life sucks and then you die. Okay, that's a person who hasn't gone and chosen a life purpose. You're divine, you're capable, and you're limitless. So this process we're talking about today is, first of all, you've got the ingredients, and then you have to do the soul searching to see how those weave together. But start with the learnings from your life experience, and then see, how do the skills that I have allow me to do this better? How do my natural gifts, and let's get some really good examples. If you've had all kinds of life experience where you learned resilience and faith and courage and stuff, that's a powerful platform. If one of your skills is you happen to listen really well, you can see obviously how the mixture of those things would magnify your life experience. Because if you were to coach someone or mentor or serve or write a book or create a program about resilience and growth and overcoming and courage, and you had the ability to listen really well, then you would be so much more powerful as you coached people. Also, as you spoke, because that same sensitivity lets you read the room and see what people are feeling and hearing. And there are so many nuances to that gift, your ability to listen, to hear, to understand, to read energy. And all that's woo-woo speak, but it's real when you're with somebody and you just kind of know what they're feeling, and you adjust how you're communicating so it's more impactful, more powerful, more effective. So if you identify from your life experience the things you feel called to help with, called to serve, like if you could help people change the world, even a small part, or the whole world, in some powerful way based on your skills and experience, not skills, but your life experience, the stuff you've been through, what would that be? And then mix it with the gifts you have. And don't hide your light. And look at the skills you've been paid for. How can you take advantage of those things? And you can easily see now why I say when you mix these three things together, you can make the biggest impact, make the most money, and have the most fun. Okay? Now, the mechanics of how to write a book or create a course or create a coaching program or some program that you sell online some way, they're not difficult. They're not difficult. Now, here's what I want to invite you. 3 invitations. You see at the bottom of the screen, dreambuildwriteit.com, right there where my fingers are. Please go there right now. Dreambuildwriteit.com. www.dreambuildwriteit. That's a challenge that I'm running in June 2 through 6, that will show you again how to do this, how to effectively mine your experiences, how to choose, refine, and articulate a powerful, driving purpose using these 3 things we've talked about: your life experience, your skills, and your gifts. Because when you weave them together, you're never saying, I hate this job, because it's using everything you got. You love it. You lean in. So I'm inviting you, dreambuildwriteit.com. Go there. Let me help you. I'm an expert, a world-class expert at helping you mine this and then find your purpose, then do something with it. One of the easiest and most available things is to write a book. That used to be hard, but publishing's so easy now. There's nothing like writing a book about your life and your experience to help you organize, crystallize, and teach what you know. And from there, you can get speaking opportunities and create workshops and coaching programs and, speak. I mean, I do all these things. I write books. I create programs. I coach. I speak. I train others to do the same because it's so much fun. And I'm living that ultimate life. And every person that I get in those programs that stays with me, we get their books published and their programs created and all that good stuff. Now, here's what I know. You are programmed to make an impact, to make money, and to have joy. Whether you go do that is up to you. So right now, you need to make a decision. What is your decision? Are you going to decide to create? Are you going to decide to act? I've given you a detailed explanation of the 3 elements of the triple helix. If you'd like my help walking through it with your pile of skills, gifts, and talents, get a hold of me. The URL, KellanFluckigerMedia.com, has a contact form. Love to talk to you. Start messy. Just start. Because if you procrastinate, you're dead. Procrastination's the slow death of dreams. I invite you right here, right now, to take a stand for yourself, a stand for those you can serve, and to move forward this minute. Get a hold of me if you want so I can help you, because there's nothing I'd like better than to help you create your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.